Good afternoon, team. Really nice to meet you, and thanks for having this name and giving me this opportunity. My name is Yerna Jarkeshev. I'm also representing Kazakhstan Association for Blockchain Technologies here in the US, the association that promotes blockchain and other technologies in Kazakhstan and elsewhere. And clearly, this interview is for the 5th Nobel Fest.
So I've got to tell you that I have had a lot of experience with Kazakhstan. We are working with the Kazakhstan government on promoting and creating an ecosystem for entrepreneurship. We think that Kazakhstan has great potential, and this will be a really interesting time. We're seeing a lot of interesting entrepreneurs from around the world that are recognizing Kazakhstan as potentially as a hub. And we're trying to make that happen. We've built ecosystems in other countries and it's worked out very well. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. So kind of you. And it's actually Kazakhstan's initiative to actually launch the Nobel Fest. And this year we have the 5th Nobel Fest, which is internationally recognized and held actually across various geographies, stretching from Uganda to Bangladesh, with several studios across the world, and with the main studio in Kazakhstan live right now. And Nobel Fest actually brings together Nobel Prize winners, breakthrough winners, eminent scientists, experts, and business visionaries like yourself, with only one important message. Everyone should have a chance to access and benefit from global knowledge. I want to express you my gratitude for this wonderful opportunity and for supporting this initiative. I know that you and your family, with your father, are the founders of the venture capital investments, not only in the US but actually in the world.
Well, my grandfather was the first Silicon Valley venture capitalist.
Exactly.
My father was a venture capitalist, a great pioneer
Exactly.
venture capitalist, and then he was also the administrator of the UN Development Program, a big part of the United Nations.
Exactly. So I think that these 3 generations of your family have been really promoting the solutions that are impacting everyday lives of billions of people around the globe. So let's come to your success story. Tim, you have an outstanding business portfolio over the last 20 years especially. What motivates and inspires you to continue your success story?
Well, success breeds success. We have really been fortunate in that I kind of have an instinct for an entrepreneur and what an entrepreneur is and thinks about. Often the entrepreneur is willing to look a little bit off the track. Most people like to just stay in their lane. A good entrepreneur is willing to say, hey, is this the best way to do it, or is there a better way to do it? And so I look for that in people, and I love that. But once we started to have success, I realized what a huge impact that these entrepreneurs could have on the world. When we did Hotmail, we didn't realize that we were moving communications around the world for free. Before that, if I were to try to get a message to you in Kazakhstan from here in the Silicon Valley, I'm not sure it would have actually ever gotten there.
Right.
Whether, we would have cut down trees, written things on paper, licked poison, put it in an envelope, would have gone in a car to an airplane to, who knows, it might have been on a yak going to Kazakhstan back then. Well, now it's instantaneous. Everybody gets the same information as quickly as it comes out. And that is due to one of our companies, Hotmail. And then Skype made it so that you can see me and we don't even have to be in the same place. It's like you travel instantaneously without having to get on the airplane and going. Those companies have made a huge impact on the world. Tesla might be saving the world. And that was a company we backed just from the very beginning. And and now they're worth, I think, $1 trillion in the market cap. But it also is an opportunity for us to travel around on a vehicle that does not use gasoline, and that is a major breakthrough. We think that it's entrepreneurs that are going to make the big impact on the world. And if we've got a climate change issue, it's going to be entrepreneurs that solve it. If we've got a governance issue, it's going to be entrepreneurs that solve it. The problems are always stated by the statespeople, the government officials. They find problems, but the ones who solve these problems are usually entrepreneurs. And they'll solve it for one customer, and then they'll solve it for many customers. And then these things will spread around the world. So yeah, I'm motivated. I want to be in the venture capital business because I get a chance to meet with these people who might have an extraordinary impact on the world.
This brings us, Tim, to the next question about your ability to see the big picture of technological transformations. Could you please share Tim Draper's list of technologies that will shape and transform the world in the 21st century? And do you believe they would help against the biggest challenges of humanity?
Yeah, well, I've been able to see certain waves happen. I mean, when the hardware came out, the computer came out, and then the personal computer, those were big breakthroughs, and they started to affect other industries. And then when software came out, started to affect other industry. When the internet came out, it transformed some of the biggest industries in the world: communications, information, gaming, entertainment, media. All these industries were transformed by the internet. Well, now we have another technology. It started with Bitcoin. It's the blockchain and everything around Bitcoin and the blockchain. And those technologies now have the potential to transform not just banking, which is the obvious one, because Bitcoin is a currency that's transparent and open and global. You can use it anywhere, keeps perfect records. It's a great new breakthrough in currency. But also other industries like finance. I can imagine a time where I raise a fund completely in Bitcoin. I invest in entrepreneurs all in Bitcoin. They pay their employees and suppliers all in Bitcoin. And the whole thing in the taxes are taken care of, and the records are kept perfectly on the blockchain. That would be a major breakthrough in finance. So banking, finance, insurance. I think insurance is about to go through a major transformation. We can use the blockchain for insurance. We can use surveillance plus the blockchain, and where right now you pay your premium, and then you have a claim. Well, a great insurance company entrepreneur might figure out that you pay your premiums, but then surveillance can tell them that your house is burning down. They can send you a check before you even knew your house was burning down. Right. That kind of thing can really change insurance. Real estate's going to change because people now can own pieces of buildings through tokenization. And government's going to change. Already governments are competing with one another. When I told your government, the prime minister, your prime minister, about how I was the third Estonian virtual resident, he said, we're going to have a virtual residency program. And I think that has been implemented.
Right.
And so that was competitive governance, governments having to be accountable to their citizens because they want more citizens and they want more income. And so governance is going to change. And there is a new technology there, the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, that can change the nature of what a government is. And a lot of different companies are experimenting, starting with Tezos, but Jur is changing the way a jury operates. Aragon is showing how a liquid democracy could operate. governments are going to be able to change in big, huge ways. And so these are the biggest industries in the world: government, real estate, banking, insurance, finance. Those are the biggest industries in the world. Oil is one, but so we're going to see some of the biggest sea changes in the world because of these new technologies around Bitcoin and the blockchain. So this is an exciting time.
Since you already mentioned about the Bitcoin and the crypto world, we're moving now to the crypto world. And 3 years ago, in one of the interviews, you mentioned that Elon Musk was the most impactful entrepreneur in the world. But you also said that if you ask me this question 3 years later, you would say it was Satoshi Nakamoto. So has your view become stronger ever since, and what role cryptocurrencies will play in the future?
Well, I still think Steve Jobs has made a huge impact on our world. Elon Musk has made a huge impact on our world. But I actually think Satoshi Nakamoto may end up being the one who has made the biggest impact on our world longer term, because he is changing the biggest industries in the world. And I think when you have that kind of an impact on the world, you should be the hero. Well, the other thing is that I think that Satoshi has allowed humanity to go through an anthropological leap forward. And the way I would argue that to be the case is currency has already gone through a number of different changes. We started by trading shells with each other, and then it was gold, and then it was the promise of gold, and then it was something that says the government will support you. And now it's even more abstract. It went to credit cards, and now it's Bitcoin. Well, when humans now have a currency where they don't need a trusted third party to operate, so I could send you Bitcoin, I don't need to send it through a bank to another bank. I can just send you Bitcoin. And that peer-to-peer sending of money is an anthropological leap. But the biggest anthropological leap I see is the decentralized autonomous organizations. Because think about this. Think about governance generally. It has always been, there's been a border between two people, and these people say, okay, we'll operate in the way we operate, you operate in the way you operate, right, and we won't cross that border, you don't cross that border. Well, we have these arbitrary borders. They're geographic. And so each of our countries, our governments have a monopolistic position. And so they have never thought in terms of providing good service for a low cost the way every business in the world thinks about it. Well, there is getting to be that time where people are able to move, businesses can move, money can move anywhere around the world. And so what does that mean? And that money can be accepted anywhere around the world. Bitcoin is accepted anywhere around the world. Well, what that means is that we citizens are going to be looked at more as customers, and governments are going to be looked at more as businesses, and they're going to have to improve, be accountable to their people. They're going to have to delight their citizens, or the citizens will move to another government. That will bring humanity way up. And the DAOs, the reason I keep bringing up the DAOs is I think about, let's say Jeff Bezos creates Amazon. He builds this business. It's an extraordinary business. And then people start attacking him because of schadenfreude or jealousy or whatever. And because they're saying he's rich and I'm not. Well, what if when you start a business, it's a DAO instead of a corporation? A corporation is for the benefit of the founder, the employees, and the investors generally. And then when it goes public, anybody can buy it. But until then, it's really for those three.
Right.
Well, a DAO can be for the benefit of those three, but it can also be for the benefit of customers and suppliers and the community. And a DAO can be set up in any number of different ways, and that can change the way humanity operates. And if I am a DAO holder of a company like Amazon, I'm saying, go, Jeff, go.
Right.
And if I'm not, then I'm saying, oh, you cut him down, whatever. And so I actually think that the DAO will actually change the whole mindset of humanity down the road. But first, we're going to see governments competing with one another for us, for the money, for the entrepreneurs, for the businesses, for the humans.
Right. You've already zoomed out to a larger picture, and I'm mindful of time. That's why I guess other questions would be in terms of the startups and the investments. And for many years, the Silicon Valley was probably the only place for startups to become truly global. Do you believe today that the birthplace and the geography of startups matters? And how investors like you find future unicorns, and what features should they demonstrate to attract investments?
So here's where I say freedom. And I think entrepreneurs of the future, right now, entrepreneurs come to the Silicon Valley because it's free. The country is free. Silicon Valley is 3,000 miles away from Washington, so we don't have regulators breathing down our necks. That freedom makes all the difference for an entrepreneur. The ability to try things, to experiment, and not to have to go fill out forms for regulators. If you're starting a business, you don't want it to fit into the mold that a regulator has created. Mm-hmm. You want it to create its own mold. You want it to be something entirely different. Let the regulators catch up later. Right. And so freedom turns out to be the place entrepreneurs will go. Now that freedom is starting to happen in other countries. And the argument I always make is North and South Korea. North Korea, government-controlled, socialist, communist, military dictatorship, and government tells everybody what to do. Government decides what you get to eat, how you get to live, everything, what you have to do for work. South Korea was free, open system, free market, free speech. They were a democracy. They were a capitalistic society. And now that experiment is now more than 70 years old. And the line that delineated South from North Korea is still there. The demilitarized zone is still there. Very few
Right.
people have crossed that line. What's happened in 70 years? Well, now the average South Korean makes 460 times what the average North Korean makes. And the average South Korean is now 4 inches taller than the average North Korean. So given those constraints, it's pretty clear that the freedom works. And South Korean entrepreneurs are prevalent. They're everywhere. There's some great South Korean entrepreneurs. Many unicorns have come from South Korea. And the woman I met who has escaped from North Korea said that the government counts out 24 kernels of corn and says, that's your lunch. And that's why they're smaller and starving. And I remember her looking up at me. She was about 4'2" and I'm about
Right.
6'4".
Right.
And she looked up at me and she said, if I had grown up in a free country, I'd be looking you eye to eye.
Right.
And I think that freedom is in lots of different places around the world now. I mean, El Salvador, suddenly El Salvador has become a very free place. And so entrepreneurs are starting to flock to El Salvador. They're making Bitcoin a national currency.
Exactly.
You're starting to see that kind of thing happen. Freedoms start to happen, and entrepreneurs will thrive under those governances. And so that's why I think eventually the governments have to provide services that the people will want. and the people will be able to choose the government that's right for them.
I appreciate the comparisons and the parallels you're drawing to really get the message across. But coming to the talents and education system, the Draper University successfully operates since 2012, and many alumni have become, successful startup runners and entrepreneurs. And I wonder if you can share briefly your thoughts on the weaknesses of traditional education and what universities do not give us in order to enable us to become entrepreneurs.
That's great question. I started Draper University thinking that no school has really figured out how to encourage entrepreneurs or create entrepreneurs. And I remember people telling me entrepreneurship can't be taught. And whenever anybody says something can't happen, I always think, how would I do it? If I were to do it, how would I do it? And then I came up with a system and I realized, I've got it. There is a better way to teach students. Students today are from the society way back when, where everybody lines up in seats. They all talk, the one professor talks, everybody takes notes. Then they are tested to make sure that they understood everything that the professor said. And if they make no mistakes, they get an A, they get the high grade. Well, what happens if somebody in the back of the class is sitting there, he gets a bad grade, but he was listening to the professor and he was also thinking for himself. And he was saying, hey, there's another way to do this or whatever. The classes today are all about don't make mistakes, but that guy in the back of the class is thinking, I'll take a chance, and if I make a mistake, I'll try something else, and then I'll make another mistake, and then I'll try something else, and I'll be successful. So I think this willingness to fail and to try new things is something that is not well taught in our education system. And I understand it, because if you're a professor, you need control over the class. And if you don't have control over the class, you don't feel like you can teach them anything. But I think that is wrong-headed. And there are lots of ways for you to teach a class. I have learned that a really good way to teach is to break the class into teams of 5 and make them and give them projects. And that has been magic. If they're in a team of 2, they don't think they can accomplish anything. And if they're a team of 10, then people can hide. But if they're 5, they can accomplish anything. And it's amazing. I have given challenges where I thought this is going to be impossible. And it turns out it's not impossible. And they come back and they say, done.
Now, you're already talking about the motivation for the audience, and a lot of participants of Noble Fest are young or future entrepreneurs. And so please share your wisdom, what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in this rapidly changing, technologically intense world.
Well, what's interesting is in some ways, a bear market is good for entrepreneurs, because when it's a bull market, anyone can go ahead and start a business, and they just convince somebody to give them money, and then they get money, and then they go. But if you really want to build a great business, not a good business, but a great business, then you need to start it from scratch and do it to delight your customer, to make your customer feel that certain vibe that you're trying to send so hard that they then become your sales force. And I think that only happens in a bear market. I think when money's not easily available, when money's not running rampant, it's much easier to start thinking, how do I get my customer to pay me money? And that is the best way to build a business. Make your customer delighted, so delighted that they become your sales force.
Mr. Draper, thank you so much for your time. and your brilliant insights. We admire your passion, your motivation to so many people around the world, and we wish you every success in your endeavors as well. So thank you.
Terrific. Very great to see you, and go Kazakhstan.
Thank you.